is the Fort Bend Herald Football Scoreboard Show with Joel Luna and Sam Cinta, bringing you this week's latest on the gridiron from around the bend.
Week 7 in the books now here, the Fort Bend Herald Football Scoreboard Show. Sam Cinta alongside Joel Luna, bringing you all of this weekend's action. And we say this every week, the season is just flying by. Only 4 more weeks left in the regular season before we start that playoff chase to AT&T Stadium in Arlington. And man, another good week for our teams. Picked up some wins, a couple close games, a tough loss for Needville, but man, really fun action on the gridiron here.
A lot of good action on the gridiron, and a lot of good play by individual players, which is always something interesting to talk about. Our teams, for the week, they went 3-2. I'm not counting Fulshear and Foster because they played against each other. But if I did, it would be a different story.
4-3. There we go. Yeah.
So it'd be almost the same thing. It was a good weekend. It was good football. It was good weather. Not too bad.
Weather. Yeah.
Even for the Saturday afternoon game. Yeah.
So, a little warm, but nothing crazy. Yeah.
So overall, it was a pretty good weekend, and like we say, another fast weekend that goes by. It flies by. I don't. Sometimes I see night, and then I see morning, and then before I'm going at another game. So it's quick.
Yeah, for sure. And you said it. We had a great rivalry game between Fulshear and Foster. The game that was close at halftime. Fulshear pulls away at the end. You saw Terry get a revenge win over Baytown Lee Friday night. Mm-hmm. Needville and Navasota turned into a really fun shootout there up the road at Rattler Stadium. Kind of a closer score than I think we thought we were going to see out of Randle and Texas City, but a big win for the Lions. They're now winners of 22 games in a row, which, golly. Of course, Lamar Consolidated dropped a tough one on the road, Fort Bend Marshall on Thursday. And, even our executive editor, Scott Willie, got a little bit of Tomas action, their JV team beating Ridgepoint at Traylor Stadium Thursday night as well. So a lot of cool stuff for us to get into here this week. And we're going to start it all with the action between the Mustangs and the Buffs Thursday night at Hall Stadium.
So it wasn't the best of nights for the Lamar Consolidated Mustangs as they visited Fort Bend Marshall in a key District 9 5A Division II contest at Kenneth Hall Stadium, and this was on Thursday night. Now, Lamar and Marshall entered the evening winless in district play, so each team was looking for a win to get back in that district race. At the end of 4 periods, the Buffaloes held the advantage at 37-7, holding a 28-0 halftime lead against the Mustangs. It was a long night for the Mustangs. It turned out to be that way, especially in the first half. The offense, defense just couldn't get going. Head coach Chris Lane credited the defense more on this night, the way they played. But Marshall had been missing starting quarterback Caden Johnson, the 6'7", that's right, 6'7" quarterback since the start of the season. But he returned against the Stangs, and he had a fantastic night. In fact, the 6'7" thrower threw for 257 yards, 13 of 14 with an interception. So he was on line to have a good night. He just threw the ball very well, and that's what Marshall's needed in their more recent losses, missing the big guy under center. He started the scoring with the Buffaloes, finishing up a drive that ended with Johnson using his length to stretch across the goal line from the 1-yard line for a 7-0 lead early in the second quarter. Now, Lamar Consolidated's offense had a hard time unhitching the wagon on this one as they totaled just 58 yards of offense. With the new head coach in charge, trying to turn this thing around, it will take some time. They haven't been to the playoffs in the last 5 seasons, but even thinking about accomplishing that right now is not the biggest worry. The coach has got to win the confidence of the locker room along with the coaches. Those are some of the things that Lane has to worry about. And like he said in this game, it seemed like the players just weren't dialed into the game in the first half. Now that could be a problem. Johnson and Marshall continued scoring with Philip Kendrick getting a 6-yard run into the end zone, followed by a 27-yard pass from Johnson to Dylan Waters. Then Johnson got another one before halftime, a 2-yarder with 26 seconds left on the clock and a 28-0 lead at the break. Lamar only had 5 first downs in the first half. Now, the second half was a different matter for the Mustangs because they put more effort in what they were trying to accomplish. However, they went down 30-0 after a safety from a low snap that tangled up the quarterback, Edgar Garcia, in the end zone with the rush on top of him. Right after that, the Buffaloes returned the kickoff 73 yards for another score. Now, to save a little face, Lamar went on a drive that culminated with Garcia finding Cameron Dalliette off the left sideline into the end zone for 34 yards, which was their only score of the night against the Buffaloes. But they better regroup because upcoming is Iowa Colony, Texas City, Baytown Lee, and Randle. Those remain on their schedule. Marshall improves the series to 4-2. Go get them.
Looking to make your next real estate move but unsure where to start? The Ace Hernandez team at Manor Lane Southwest has you covered. The Ace Hernandez team is Fort Bend and Southwest Houston's real estate experts with 75 years of experience in guiding homeowners and home buyers alike. Contact the Ace Hernandez team at 281-762-6757 and find out more about their seller financing options today.
With back-to-back wins, the Terry Rangers did a good job on Baytown Lee on Friday night with a 41-21 victory led by some youngsters at Traylor Stadium. Now, some of those juniors are quarterback Caden Jones, wide receiver Brandon Williams, and Alua Whittle, along with sophomore tailback Jalen Mann. Some of these youngsters have stepped in because of injuries or other stuff. And it seems like being pressed into service like this, that's what they needed to show because they've come out and done some work on the gridiron. Now, the Rangers did the damage on the Ganders with a combination of running and passing the ball. Jones coming off a 3-touchdown performance in the Battle of the Berg, which the Rangers won, along with the youngster Mann who ran for 80 big yards in that big game and also a score. Now, despite his size, Mann's that is, head coach Darnell Jackson says that he is small but plays quite big, and he did that against Baytown Lee. Mann scored twice against the Ganders. The first one was a 1-yarder. The second one in the third quarter was a 31 jaunt that made Mann look special because of that pull-away speed that he has in the open as he pulled away from everybody into the end zone. But what about also that Ranger defense, which allowed only 66 passing yards, but by keeping quarterback Shandarian Davis on the run for most of the night? The Rangers did give up 255 rushing yards, but 134 of those were on 2 plays, a 75 and a 59-yard score by Baytown Lee's Elijah Brown. Take those 2 away, and it could have been 121 running yards for the Ganders. Senior linebacker Jaden Robertson got on the scoreboard after recovering a fumble in the end zone after a bad exchange between quarterback and running back for the Ganders. Robertson also recovered another fumble later on in the game. Also getting on the board was Whittle, as he caught a 33-yarder from Jones in the end zone and had to battle for the ball with a defender on him. But the whistle had already been blown by the refs, signaling Whittle scored before the defender took the ball away in a tussle. Brandon Williams also scored on a 59-yarder when he was wide open down the middle. And boy, oh boy, man with his flashy 31-yarder into the end zone in that second half. Now that kid has some talent, and if he continues showing it, he will become quite a weapon for the Rangers. By the start of the final period, Jackson started putting in some reserves, and I'm sure he wanted to see some kids in action if they ever need to go in because of this or that. He is preparing that depth for Terry, which is a good thing. Now the Rangers are going into the teeth of the schedule, and that starts this Thursday against Fort Bend Marshall. That'll be at Kenneth Hall Stadium at 7 p.m. with a 7 p.m. kickoff. Get ready, Terry. Here they come.
In need of professional care with a personal touch? Physical therapy care and aquatic rehab of Fort Bend can get you back to work, life, and play free from pain. With locations in Richmond and the Fulshear Katy area, Physical Therapy Care and Aquatic Rehab of Fort Bend offers orthopedics, sports medicine, vertigo and balance rehab, and post-surgical rehab, and more. Call today at 281-344-8900 and find out how Physical Therapy Care and Aquatic Rehab of Fort Bend can listen, educate, and return you to functional independence.
Friday night, I made the drive up to Rattler Stadium in Navasota, taking on Needville against the Rattlers in the 12-4A D1 opener for both teams, coming off of the bye week. And it's really a game of two halves, so to speak. Not that Needville was particularly sloppy, lost a fumble, but so did Navasota in that first half. But the Rattlers just didn't really make the mistakes. They led 28-10 after the first 24 minutes of action. And it was interesting that Needville kind of played conservatively to close out the first half. The Needville fans that made the drive up to Rattler Stadium, a little under 2 hours there, weren't happy to see them not going for points the last 90 seconds or so of the first half. And actually, I would imagine these boos were probably more for the coaching decision than at the players and coaches themselves. But they walked off the field to boos from the Needville side, which, yikes, right? We're at a high school football game. These are kids here. Let's try and keep that, to yourselves, right? If you feel the need to boo teenagers off of a field, not something that I liked to see while I was at that game. But certainly, being on the Needville sideline, that fueled the group. They come out right out of the gate and score a touchdown on their first drive to open the half, and I caught a Needville player turn around and yell at the stands, "Boo that!" Right? So clearly there was a fire lit under this Blue Jay team, and the third quarter they come out and outscore the Rattlers 25-7. They get a game-tying field goal from Jesus Miranda with 11 seconds left in the third quarter to tie the game 35-35, and man, didn't see that coming the way they looked in that first half. Cameron Hall was outstanding throughout. I felt like he was the biggest reason they had a chance to win the game. 352 yards through the air, 126 yards on the ground, including a hurdle clear over a Navasota defender in that contest. Kobe Campbell was also solid. He scored 3 touchdowns on the ground, had another through the air. Was fine. 85 yards, well over 100 in total when you factor in his receiving yards as well. He had I was looking for the final total there. He had 85 on the ground, also had 116 through the air. So well over 200 yards actually, all-purpose yards for Kobe Campbell. But he did lose a fumble, which has been a problem for him at times, and he was unable to connect with Cameron Hall on 4th and 4 from the 12 in the game's final seconds. Hall made some time but had some pressure coming up in front of him. Kobe Campbell snuck into the flat out of the backfield, and man, they had a chance on that play. He was open. He would have walked in for the touchdown. They just couldn't connect. The throw was a little short. Campbell couldn't quite get back to it. It was very emotional at the end of the game that they weren't able to make that play. You could tell they wanted to win that one really, really badly. But in the end, a 42-35 loss to the Rattlers in a game that, a couple different respects, they feel like they could have won that game if they had played the way they did in the second half throughout. And also, if they just didn't make as many mistakes, they didn't have as big a hole for them in the first half, they would have had a chance to win that game outright and had a chance to win the game at all there at the very end. Coach Giles, we talk a lot about his willingness to challenge his team in the non-district schedule. And he wants them to be ready for tough opponents and tough moments. And I think we saw that this team is ready to compete right now. They just have to stop making key mistakes. It hurt him against Livingston. They stacked up and it hurt him against Sealy, and it hurt him again against Navasota. Certainly, it's not doom and gloom for Needville. This is a team that I think should still comfortably make the playoffs in this district. It's going to kind of come down to who has to face Houston Yates in the first round of the playoffs, but I think this Needville team's in a good spot. The offense to move the ball around, and Coach Giles isn't disheartened right now. He knows his team has to play better, but he knows that better is there. And he had some interesting things to say about the loss and what his team needs to do moving.
Well, it's pretty hard, but our kids did. I mean, came back and scored 25 in the second half, and then we just had that right there to either tie it or go for two, because that was still up in the air right there, right? But it is, and that's kind of the thing that we've talked about, is limiting and they got some explosive athletes, so limiting that and making them continue to snap it. And so when you see when you do, we were able to get some turnovers for some punts, and so that's been a focus too. And we jumped. They got us, they froze us. That was a good call on their part, but we got to stay in coverage and play.
And out Galveston way Friday night also was the Randle Lions. Another 9-5A D2 matchup coming out of the bye week. Randle took on the Texas City Stingerees at Stingeree Stadium, and had a couple people reach out to me while I was up in Navasota at the Needville game. Had a couple texts and a couple messages being like, "Hey, is this score real? Like, is this something? Am I seeing this right?" Admittedly, when you're working the sideline of a game, you're not really able to be as plugged into, some area scores around you as you'd like, and hadn't really seen what Needville had been doing, or what Randle had been doing while I was covering the Needville game. And then I saw a 25-7 final score and went, whoa, a little closer than we're used to for the Lions. This was a game, I think, going into the season, that is, we figured some combination of Randle, Iowa Colony, and Fort Bend Marshall at the top of that district, and I think the general assumption was Texas City would be the 4. Santa Fe beat Marshall. They had a win over Lamar Consolidated, kind of wondering how frisky they might be in that race, and then, of course, they get stomped by Iowa Colony on Thursday, so really wanted to see what Texas City would do, and they were impressive. Strong defensive front. We knew that. They had great size, especially at defensive tackle. And against a Randle offensive line that's a little battered and bruised at the moment, even coming out of a bye week, it was not going to say a recipe for disaster for the Lions, because they won this game by 18 points. But it was still a recipe for a closer game than I think a lot of people had on their bingo cards ahead of time. That being said, Tyler Skrbanek still had a host of touchdowns, was strong in leading what I think is a diverse offense. I think it's a more diverse offense maybe than even it was last year. I think, is he as athletic as Keelan Sweeney and able to do quite as many things as Sweeney could do besides just, throwing the ball last year? No, I don't think that. What I do think, though, is he is a more mature passer than Sweeney was a year ago, and he's more capable of making more throws than Sweeney. That's not a knock on Keelan whatsoever. He's a great player for them last year, but Skrbanek is just a different type of quarterback. Did a really good job kind of throwing the ball all over the place, to be honest. And Ashton Johnson, 3 catches, 132 yards. He had some scores. It was good enough for the Lions. They win. They stay perfect. They've won 22 games in a row. It's the longest winning streak in LCISD history. It's the longest 11-man winning streak in the state. Of course, we know they're trying to win a second state title in a row. All of these things that make this a good win for Randle. He got 221 yards out of Landon Williams-Callis. Not pretty. Not quite as highlight-loaded as some of their other results have been. Although, of course, there was a 97-yard LWC touchdown in the game. But Randle is now 3-0 in district play, and they have played the 3 best teams in the district outside of themselves. You'll take that any day of the week and twice on Sunday. And for the Lions, now they get to go into, deeper into district play. They're going to play Baytown Lee. They still have Lamar Consolidated and Terry and Santa Fe left on their schedule as well. So you would imagine load management, risk management, injury management is going to be the name of the game for the Lions as we get closer and closer to the start of the postseason, which we know that is what Randle has been focused on since day one. Since bringing the trophy home in December last year, they have been focused on bringing home a second, doing something that no LCISD program has ever done, which is win another state title. Lamar Consolidated won in 2007. George Ranch won in 2015. Neither have come particularly close to bringing another one back. The Lions know this is their opportunity to do so, and so far have taken care of business in 9-5A2. Does your water taste bad, smell bad, leave behind soap scum? Looking for something clean, filtered, and chemical-free to change your life? Natural Springs Water Filtration could have the customized water filtration system for you. Shop local, buy local, shop Fort Bend, your local clean water lady here at Natural Springs Water Filtration. Call today, 281-277-3232. Ask for Rose, the clean water lady, and get a free in-home consultation and $500 off your purchase when you call for your in-home water analysis today. Solve your hard water problems. Get bottled quality water at every tap. Spot free glasses and dishes, and have softer and cleaner claws out of the laundry. Clean, fresh, chemical-free drinking quality water from your tap from Natural Springs Water Filtration. Our business is improving your water. And our highlight matchup this weekend was the War of the Westpark, Fulshear and Foster from Guy K. Traylor Memorial Stadium, Saturday afternoon. It's the 4th all-time meeting between Fulshear and Foster. All of them now, including Saturday's game, have gone by way of the Chargers. It was a 37-6 win for Fulshear on Saturday. Wasn't anything crazy in this contest. It really wasn't. This was a 3-0 game at halftime. So really slow start for both sides offensively. Sean Patel threw an interception on the game's first drive. Foster lost some fumbles. They threw a pick. They threw a pick 6 in the second half to Evan Ferns for his first ever varsity touchdown, which was pretty cool. Fulshear also got another long field goal, this time 46 yards from Alejandro Quinones. He kicked a 47-yarder last week and 46 this week. So at the end of the day, a 37-6 win for Fulshear, you will take that. But again, 37 points, 34 of them coming in that second half in a rivalry game that got chippy. We had a fight on the Foster sideline on a Byron Fantroy run in the second half. Emeka Eziani for Foster and Jackson Drain for Fulshear were both ejected in the aftermath of that. Maybe fight is putting it a little too harshly. There was let's call it a skirmish on the sideline that resulted in pushing and shoving and words, and it looked like a couple punches were thrown, and certainly an emotional rivalry matchup. The district was very intent on making sure that this post-game handshake line was well supervised, that no extracurricular activity spilled out onto the field after the game, and they did a good job. It was very sportsmanlike afterward, didn't have any problems like that. But clearly, with having district support staff and police officers on the field and the coaches kind of watching over on top of it the way that they were, it was something they were aware of and trying to be cognizant of. But at the end of the day, all of the emotion aside, all of the bad feelings aside, it's a big win for Fulshear as they go into a first-place battle against Drake Jesuit. And I think it's pretty clear this game may turn into the de facto conference championship game or district championship game, right? It's 2 unbeaten teams left in district play. Strake Jesuit, of course, has already had their bye, so they're 2-0 while Fulshear's 3-0 in district play. Fulshear won this game last year against Johnny A. Bear, and the Crusaders will have to do a similar thing to stay in first place and, ahead of games against, Elsick, Taylor, and George Ranch. After that, they're going to have to hold the course, keep winning. For Foster, it's not over by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah, it really stinks right now for them to be 1-6, 1-5, 1-6 overall. You don't want to do that. Shane Hanks wants to win. He wants to get back into the playoffs, and that is not out of the question. Foster plays Hayleaf Taylor on Friday night, and that game they have to have. Realistically, Foster has to win this game. Mathematically, I think there's still a path should they still lose that contest. But beating Hayleaf Taylor will keep them in the driver's seat for their own spot. Yeah, they still have to play Strake Jesuit. Yeah, they still have to play Hastings. But getting the win this week, give them that head-to-head tiebreaker over the Lions, and allow them a little bit of grace. They could still lose one of those last 2 games and still make it into the playoffs. So they have to turn the page quickly. It's an offense that scored 42 points last week. They scored 36 points the week before that. They were only held to 6. They had negative rushing yards in total, I think, for the contest, or maybe just over it. But they were, for a lack of a better term, shut down on Saturday afternoon. But they've scored before. They've moved the ball before. They know they can do that. They didn't do it on Saturday very well. But they shouldn't panic. There's still an opportunity for a what would be a really big win at Crump Stadium Friday night. So a lot to see moving forward for both of these teams. But talking to Coach Hill, going back to Fulshear real quick, he knows it wasn't necessarily a great showing on Saturday, so there's plenty for his team to fix. But it's a big one that they have to get next week against the Crusaders.
It's a trap game for us.
Yeah.
It's an emotional game. I don't know many guys, many teams in Houston that play on a Saturday and turn around and play on a Thursday. That's usually not the case. And so not only that being tough, but the opponent that we're facing is obviously a very worthy opponent. And so coaches are going to go back to work tonight. Players are, we're going to get after it again on Monday and have 2 days to prepare for a really good Strake Jesuit team. So.
In need of a partner to help you reach your financial goals? Houston Federal Credit Union is your local credit union. With checking accounts, savings accounts, auto loans, mortgage loans, business loans, and credit cards, Houston Federal Credit Union can help you achieve all of your financial dreams. Find out more information at houstonfcu.org to apply online for a loan or membership, and find out more information about how they can help you get where you want to go. This week's local scoreboard brought to you by Creekside Christian Fellowship, with weekly service times on Thursday at 7 p.m. and Sundays from 9:30 a.m. and 11 a.m. with children's ministry available during all services. Find out why Creekside Christian Fellowship has been introducing the unchurched to Christ and having a significant impact on the Needville community. Creekside Christian Fellowship, located at 16628 Highway 36 in Needville, cheering on the Blue Jays to victory for 20 years. Creekside Christian Fellowship. And it was a busy week of action across the area. We're just going to do one scoreboard for us here today because we were actually kind of light on Thursday and on Saturday. We're just going to lump it all together into one. So Thursday's action elsewhere in 26A, of course, Strake Jesuit and Hayleaf Elsick. That was a game between 2 unbeaten teams in conference play. Strake comes out on top 63-42 and sets up a great first-place clash against Fulshear this week. Also in that district, Hayleaf Taylor beat Hayleaf Hastings 34-13. Bears are struggling. Taylor trying to keep pace in that postseason chase. Up at Fort Bend ISD on Thursday, Fort Bend Travis beat Austin 47-24. That was at Mercer Stadium in Sugar Land. Up in Katy, Jordan with a 21-6 win over Seven Lakes, while Tompkins thrashed Morton Ranch 51-2. In Iowa Colony, another one, of course, there in 9-5 AD2. Iowa Colony beat Santa Fe 63-14, a really, really, really convincing win for the Pioneers. Moving on to Friday at Fort Bend ISD, Bush beats Elkins, just squeaks past the Knights 28-24, while Hightower picks up a really convincing 63-14 win against Clements. Also in that district, Stafford beat, or in that, I should say, Fort Bend ISD, not just that district, but Stafford beat Willow Ridge 42-27. And Kepner lost to LaPorte 63-12. Almeda Crawford beating Brazosport 54-9. Also on Friday, Katy with a 57-6 win over Katy Taylor, while Cinco Ranch beats Paytow 41 to 27. Elsewhere around the area, El Campo beat Beeville Jones 45-7. Brookshire Royal lost 28-21 to Columbia, while Wharton blanks Sugarland Harmony 57-0. East Bernard, they always come out top on this rivalry against Bowling. They beat the Bulldogs 44-21. Brazos stays hot 61-13 against Rice Consolidated, while Louise fell 48-8 to Falls City. And really our one game, aside from Foster or Fulshear, in Friday or Saturday's action, that we care about around here, Ridge Point with as convincing a win as it gets, 77-0 over Dulles. The Panthers stay unbeaten. Our Week 7 Player of the Week brought to you by Bull Creek Grill and Bar. Bull Creek in Rosenberg at 918 San Jacinto Street. Find out what makes them one of the best chicken fried steaks, hamburgers, lunch, steaks, happy hour, and pub in the area. They are 13-year recipient of the Best in Fort Bend County Award. Happy hour Tuesday to Saturday 3 to 6 with daily drink specials and a wood grill for steaks, grilled salmon, burgers, catfish, nachos, and liver and onions. Bull Creek Grill and Bar. We had some good opportunities to see some good performances this weekend. I think 3 really just kind of stood out for us. Certainly one for you Friday night at Trailer.
Yeah, Caden Jones, a quarterback. I mean, guy just kind of took over this year and has stepped in and done a good job for the Rangers. 2-1 in district play, which is the first time they've done that since 2021. When they were also 2-1, but one of them was a forfeit. So, but either way, so these cats, they go to a tough game this week. But Caden Jones, there's just something about him. He's very steady back there. He doesn't do a lot of crazy stuff. He follows the play the way it's supposed to go, and you can see it because it just goes. He just goes with that. Yes, he gets a rush every once in a while, tries to duck here and there, and still try to find something to do. But his passing to me is just something that, man, he throws the ball up there and his receivers are there. Or he finds a receiver.
Yeah. It's
like he's just automatic. He's like a little machine, just going boom, 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 Yeah. So Caden Jones, I thought, deserved a nod as a most valuable player. Had found 2 very good, nice throws for touchdowns. One of them was a 59-yarder to Brandon Williams, and he was just wide open. And sometimes those are the toughest ones because they're so wide open, and you got to hit him. He's right there. Throw it well. Don't throw it beyond him, and don't throw it before him. So either that or the kid that just doesn't catch the pass. But in this case, right on the dot. The other one was more interesting into the end zone because it was 2 of them going for the ball. 2 of them. You got the receiver, you got the defender. They both went up. And, what's his name? Caught it right away, which is number 3, Elijah Whittle. Yep, he caught it. And the referee was right there. He called it right away, TD. But the other kid kept fighting, and at the end, he took the ball away. But they had already called it. And so I thought that was a pretty nice score for both of them. So Caden Jones, man, I'd keep an eye on this cat because he can make things happen. And that's what Terry needs in this district. He needs to continue making plays the way he is because they're going to need him.
And what I think he brings is a nice verticality to that offense that they've been missing the last couple of years. They've had some good athletes that can run the ball, but you know as well as anybody, if you're able to put 8 or 9 guys in a box all night long, it doesn't really matter how athletic you are out of the backfield when you're not finding those holes. They're not respecting the pass game enough to drop two safeties and give you a little bit of room inside. Yep. What Jones is able to do is spread that field out a little bit more across the middle, and you imagine it creates more running room for Jefferson and Everett Gary when he comes back, and guys that they really rely on to kind of create variety in that offense. Really, really big piece that, again, I don't think they've had the last couple of seasons.
So I think the big surprise is with him going into Marshall. I think he could be a big surprise. Maybe such a big surprise that the Marshall kids are really thinking big of him. Mm-hmm. That we're going to get him. We're no big deal. He's not a big deal, but he can come up with some big plays. So
he's played well. Gets a good ball coming out of his hands. So yeah, it was a good win for Terry. 41-21 there over Baytown Lee again. Really looking good for the Rangers. Year over year improvement stuff. And I think the other one we want to mention here, just as a kind of a also ran candidate here. Of course, anytime you get Landon Williams-Callis over 200 yards, I think it's worth tipping the cap to. Relatively tight 25-7 win for Randle. Typically much broader scoring, but a win is a win. Certainly a win over a defense that's that good. You will take that. But Williams-Callis, 221 yards, 22 carries, also had a big 97-yard touchdown run. He really changes things. Now, that offense, Tyler Skrmanek threw the ball well that day. Ashton Johnson had a good day receiving the ball. So variety there as well. But for Williams-Callis, man, again, 221 yards. He averaged 10 yards a carry. Had that long touchdown run. It's just really hard to talk about this week as a whole without, at least looking the way at number one.
And he had back-to-back 300s before the bye.
Yeah.
So he comes back with 200, and it's the top offense against the top defense. So it wasn't an easy game. The score kind of makes it look like it was, but it wasn't at all.
Yeah, no, not at all. And then really I think the performance that stood out to me from what I saw in my couple games this weekend, look, if you were at that game, that Needville-Navasota game up at Rattler Stadium, first of all, hey, good on you for making the drive. But second of all, you're going into halftime with a 28-10 Navasota lead thinking, man, the Jays might be out of this. And Cameron Hall did not let it stay that way. They tied the game 35-35 with 11 seconds left in the third quarter. And Cameron Hall, and just as big a reason for that as anybody. He had 26-43 throwing the ball for 352 yards and a touchdown. He also carried the ball 20 times for 126 yards. On top of that, he was running, making throws on the run. His had a play where he extended it several seconds longer than probably should have. Rolled to his right, then had to cut back left and made a 19-yard completion on that. He threw a 78-yard touchdown pass to Kobe Campbell across the middle when they were pinned back deep. Mm-hmm. He jumped over a defender. A Navasota linebacker. We're not talking about somebody that jumped down low trying to take out the ankles of a guy running by him. We're talking about a linebacker with both heels on the turf. And Cameron Hall said, you know what? I'm not going to go around you. I'm just going to go over you. Jumped over him, landed on his feet, picked up a yard or 2 yards after that as well. Coach Mike Giles said, I'd rather not see him do that moving forward, but it's one of those performances. You see it out of, Josh Allen's and Lamar Jackson's and Patrick Mahomes at the pro level of just guys willing their team back into a game. That's what Cameron Hall did. It was a tough loss, 42-35 loss there to the Rattlers, but the fact that this was even a game, the fact that Needville had a chance to tie it or take the lead if they went for two there at the end, it says a lot about the performance of Cameron Hall, who is this week's Bull Creek Player of the Week.
Can't wait to see him in track and field.
Yeah, big star there, and
long jump, high jump, whatever it's going to be.
Heck of an athlete, man. Something that I think kind of gets lost in that too. He had all of those rushing yards, 126 on the ground. He didn't get positive in the ground game until the third quarter.
Wow.
There were a couple tough snaps that Needville wasn't able to handle earlier in the game that set him back in the negatives for a while. So a good bulk of those rushing yards came with the team already well in the hole. Mm-hmm. It really says a lot about how he played.
And like Coach Giles says about him, he's a fighter.
Yeah.
and that's what he does.
Yeah, it's 100%. And I know my Kansas Jayhawks had invited him on for a campus visit, this season. So maybe we see him in the Big 12. Fingers crossed. We'll cross that bridge, I guess, when we get there.
We'll see him jumping in Kansas. How about that?
Hey, man, I'll take it. We need to get something going on up there. So, again, congrats to Cam and to all of our players of the week this week. Awesome performances across the board, and we can't wait to see who's going to win the title here in Week 8.
So one of the coolest things that I've ever seen in college football is Penn State's whiteout game.
Yeah.
That's one of the coolest things that I've ever seen. I mean, entertaining whoever they are at Lions Stadium, and mostly just going to the big game. That's one of it's on my list to do.
Happy Valley, man. You can't beat it.
Yeah, just being in the crowd, whether it's day, night, whatever. I want it to be night, because at night it really stands out. It's all white. It's all Penn State, a majority. Every once in a while you'll see a sprinkle of something else here and there, but it's mostly white. So, unfortunately, their head coach just got canned on Sunday. James Franklin, I mean, he had a coaching record of 104-45 in 12 seasons with him. So he was a winner. Started from 2014 to 2025. He tied for most wins in Penn State history with Rip Engel. Franklin's first win at Penn State was a 26-24 win against Rutgers, and his last win was Villanova this year, 52-6. Wow!
And you got it. So a couple of thoughts real quick on Jim and on Happy Valley, I guess too. Right? My wife's father is a Penn State alum. We've talked about this before. Die hard, as big a Penn State fan as anybody is an anything fan, and. For first of all, let's give a little bit of credit to what James Franklin did. I know it didn't end well, right? Just a few weeks ago, James Franklin was coaching a top 10 matchup against Oregon. Yeah. Less than a year ago, they were playing for a chance to go to the national championship game, right? Yep. Oh, how quickly the tides can turn in college football. Jesus. But we got to remember, when James Franklin got to Penn State, He replaces Bill O'Brien, who was the immediate successor in the middle of the Joe Paterno mess. Yes. And I'll call it as it is. That program should have gotten the death penalty. Yep. That program should have been removed by the NCAA for what happened during the Joe Paterno tenure. So for James Franklin to be able to do what he did and return the program to a level of national prominence, sure, they never won the big one. Yeah. Sure, they didn't really have a win that you're going to remember long term. Yeah, they beat Michigan in one of those whiteout games and before Harbaugh really got it rolling. Yeah, they got Ohio State once or twice. But really, when they had a big time to get a big win, they just always seemed to fall short. Yep. But just for getting Penn State back in the national conversation, I think you have to tip your hat to James Franklin. Obviously, he wishes it ended a little bit differently. Mm-hmm. I would imagine this is the best opening of this offseason, pretty much regardless of where anybody else goes, unless maybe Kalen DeBoer again drops off the face of the earth and they decide to move on in the offseason at Alabama. I think that's a fascinating opening. I talked about this with you earlier today. Andy Kotelnicki in-house, maybe, maybe a chance, but my gut would be that they probably want a bigger named hire, somebody with previous head coaching experience, probably Power 4 previous head coaching experience.
It has to be somebody bigger. It does, because, I mean, Penn State has experienced, and they've gone through it winning. They've won. Yeah. They've won. They've been top ranked. They've been up there. But replacing a James Franklin is not going to be easy, only because of what he did and what during his career there. I mean, obviously, and you can see James Franklin being somewhere else as well.
I don't think he is unemployed very long at all. He won at Vanderbilt, which you don't do. Nobody wins at Vanderbilt, right? Like they've had a good, with Diego Pavia the last couple of years, they've had good teams. But when Franklin was at Vanderbilt, he was the first guy to win games at Vanderbilt in a very, very long time. And some program somewhere is very happy that Penn State made this move.
Yep.
I'm sure Penn State fans are maybe a little happy to get some new life breathed into the program after a little bit more than a decade, but still big news out of Happy Valley.
Either way, whiteout is going to continue, right?
Oh, yeah.
Whoever steps in, whether it's two guys, one guy, whatever, whiteout will be there, so it'll remain on my list.
That's a joke I've made with my wife a couple times. She said, "Hey man, if I don't go into a game at Happy Valley out of this marriage, I'm falling short here. I gotta be able to work my way into a trip out there and to seeing a game at that stadium for sure."
And that's your wife telling you that she wants to go.
Oh yeah,
that's a plus right there.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, you better listen to her, man. Hey, listen. Speaking of our local teams here, we were 3-2 against others this past weekend. We outscored them 145-76, but that's because I took out Fulshear and Foster because we never count those. Without Fulshear and Foster, we were outscored 86-66. Oof. So that's kind of funny to say that, but that's just the way it turns out sometimes. Hey, what about the football schedule? You said week 8. Imagine that. Week 8. Man. Wow. Big one on Thursday. Strake Jesuit at Fulshear. Boy, oh boy, that's a guy, K. Traylor. Memorial Stadium, of course, they go in 3-1 against the Crusaders. Fulshear ahead. They scored 74 on them in 2022. But, of course, they didn't have that running back. What's his name again?
Johnny A. Bear, man, he is a bear to deal with. He serious rushing talent. The state's rushing champion from a year ago, over 3,000 yards, having another big year. Mm-hmm. You can't have a conversation about Strake Jesuit football without talking about Houston-bound Johnny A. Bear.
And I saw him earlier this season against George Ranch, and boy, he just ran all over the field, and he makes it look quick, even as big as he is. Yeah. He's just a big boy, but he can rumble. Now, that was the first of 3 Thursday games. The other 2, Terry at Fort Bend Marshall, and that'll be at Kenneth Hall Stadium at 7 o'clock. Now, last year, it was 42-6 in favor of Marshall. But it might be a little bit different this year at Kenneth Hall Stadium, only because of what we've seen of Terry. Mm-hmm. They haven't been the usual Terry that, they fall short like this or like that. No, they've been on top of it. They got some players on that team.
They've made winning plays in their last 2 games too, right? That's the big thing. They're down late against Lamar Consolidated. Had to have a long game-tying touchdown drive late in the fourth quarter. They get that, and then they walk off in overtime with a touchdown. And then the game that you were at, of course, on Friday night, that was a rematch of a game that you talked to Coach Darnell Jackson about Baytown Lee 2024. He knows he will tell you every single time you have that conversation, we should have won that game. We should have won that game. We should have won that game. This year they did win that game. I know it felt good for the guys in that locker room. And man, who had the Rangers at 2-1 in district play at this point, right?
I did.
Yeah.
You didn't. And
that's not a knock on Terry. That's how we have to look at the stuff. And they have been. We thought coming into the year that they would be improved from a season ago. And I think for me at least, they're better than what I thought they'd be even. And that's even thinking that they'd be better.
And that's because they're missing one of their top players.
Yeah.
Everett Gary.
Yeah. Imagine how much better they might be if he was at full strength right now.
Mr. Do-It-All. And that's the way he started this season. He was doing everything.
Yep.
He was everywhere. But, of course, he got hurt, been out a few weeks, and, the only thing he said was, we got him back, but we're going to take it easy with him. And nobody can blame him because he's a very key player. Now, the other game also on Thursday, George Ranch at Ailey-Elsick. George Ranch returns after their bye. So they'll be at Crump Stadium. And, of course, it's 5-0 against the Rams. That's George Ranch. They haven't lost to them yet. They've outscored them 172-95. Last year's game was a shootout.
Yeah.
44-40 in favor of the Longhorns.
Yeah, Cade Marino had a couple picks in that game. I remember he's had a good season in the secondary for them again. But Caden Mendenhall, quarterback for Ailey-Elsick, man, is really quite a player. He can do a lot of things. Extending the play, I think, is the most valuable, and he's got some guys in targets at wide receiver that, while he's extending plays, have kind of a knack for finding a pocket, even if it's sitting in a soft spot in the zone or getting behind man defense and letting Mendenhall rip. Had a huge game. He counted for 7 touchdowns against Foster. I know Elsick had a tough one this week against Strake Jesuit. Everyone kind of has tough games against Strake Jesuit. So the Rams are trying to get back on track, but so are the Longhorns. Yes. And if they can find a way to force Mendenhall to beat you maybe with his first or second looks. You're maybe trying to get him to throw to those as opposed to breaking some of those plays open. If you can keep him contained, you can get Hayden Drinkard going a little bit. Who knows? Again, they won that game last year. They're trying to stay unbeaten against them, but this is I think a much different Elsick opponent than the last couple of years.
This would be a big, huge win for them.
Huge, massive, enormous
of the season.
Season-saving win if they can get it. 100%.
If they can get it. I mean, and they might surprise us.
Yeah.
You never know because they're getting a bye. They did some things.
Yep.
And hopefully they moved some people around a little bit and got some players where they need to be. Now on Friday, Foster is going to be at A-Leaf Taylor at Crum Stadium again. They had never played in the A-Leaf program until District 26A, which was just last year. Foster had. So now they come along, and here they are facing these A-Leaf schools. So that'll be another big one for Foster. They win that one, and they're right back in it again.
We were talking about this earlier. Foster beats A-Leaf Taylor, and they have to avoid disaster against A-Leaf Hastings. Pardon me. If they beat Taylor, that puts them in I'm not going to say it puts them in the driver's seat, but if they are able to beat Taylor, they really control their path to the postseason. This Taylor team's much better than in recent years. You talk to anybody that's seen Taylor, this is a much improved Lions team from recent years. I know Foster is struggling. They only scored 6 points against a really good Fulshear defense this past week. But if they win this game, they have a winnable matchup against Hastings that could get them to 3 wins in district play. That will lock in a playoff spot for a second year in a row for Foster. And given the struggles this team has had, boy, that would feel good for Shane Hanks and his coaching staff to get this team into the tournament.
And when I saw them against Fulshear, Taylor wasn't a pushover.
No, not at all.
It took Fulshear a little bit to get going at. It was at Crum Stadium as well. And the only thing that I didn't see from Taylor is a handshake. Where's a handshake? At the beginning of the game,
Sure.
You want handshakes. You want to, start it off on the right foot. But at that game, no handshake. I don't know if Foster will see any handshakes, but hopefully they will. All right, the next one is at Guy K. Trailer Stadium, of course. Baytown Lee at Randle. Last year, it was 69-7 against the Ganders. I think it could be worse this year.
You ever see those videos of people at the zoo, and they're at the tiger pit, or I guess in this case the lion enclosure, and for the sake of this matchup, let's say a duck finds its way into the tiger pit, and all these people watch in horror as it gets torn apart by a pack of lions. Yeah, I think anybody going to Trailer Stadium is probably going to see the football equivalent of that. I don't mean any disrespect to the Ganders and the kids over there and the coaches there. I know they work hard. They put in a lot of stuff to get to where they are at this point in the season, but that's a Baytown Lee team that just lost to Terry by 20 points. Yeah. That is going to be playing the reigning state champs in the division, a team that has won 22 games in a row, a team that has only 2 games in its last year and a half that have finished within a single score.
Yep.
I would expect a lot of young faces in the second half for Randle on the field. I would expect maybe 10 to 12 carries for Landon Williams-Callis before they bubble wrap him and put him, in a locker for the second half and make sure that he is safe and healed up, and maybe light showings for Noriel Dominguez on the other side and other guys that you want to save for later on. We're not sitting there saying they've won this game already, but I don't think it'll take too long for us to get into coasting mode in that one.
And some of those kids are coming back from injuries for Randle.
Yeah, exactly.
And obviously he wants to see them maybe the whole game because they haven't played.
Yeah.
He wants them to get back in shape and also know what to expect when you're on the field with your teammates. So that's something. Even talking to Coach Randle yesterday, it was kind of like, yeah, I'd like to, but I'm not going to because I don't feel good about what happened in Texas City.
Yeah.
Even though he won, came out 25-7, he still wasn't happy. And I don't blame him. Hey, you got to put yourself in a certain mood when you get into the playoffs. Now, the final game on Friday night, Brazosport at Needville at Blue Jays Stadium. The Blue Jays are ahead 8-3 against the Exporters. They've won the last 2 meetings, but I don't see the Ships getting in and close. This year, they're 0-1 in district, 1-5 in the season. They've been outscored 253-88.
And Needville, I mean, if you look at their, let's remove the Sealy loss, right? I mean, Sealy makes a lot of teams look bad, and they have had Needville's number for the better part of forever. But in the other two losses Needville has had against Livingston and on the road at Navasota have been shootouts.
Yep.
It's not a situation where their offense is held down throughout the course of a game and they're just suffocated. Mm-hmm. Sealy, again, a little different story. But in the grand scheme of things, they have had opportunities to win those two losses.
Yep.
They're not happy about the way that Navasota game ended. I can tell you there were some players that were very emotional on the field after the game, thinking they had an opportunity to make the play. They just, fingertips short of putting themselves in an opportunity to not even tie the game, because I don't think Mike Giles is trotting out his field goal kicker if they were to score there inside of a minute to play, inside of just a few seconds to play, 4th and 4 from the 12. Yeah. If Kobe Campbell catches that pass and scores, I'm telling you, Needville's going for 2 to try and win that game. So a team that really is going to come out hungry to right the wrongs of Friday night against a Brazosport team that has struggled. They just broke a really, really long losing streak earlier this year. Man, I gotta give my nod to Needville, I think, in the prediction there, and think that this is a big get right game for the Jays.
They come out fast, and they have to come out fast so they can put it away sooner.
Yeah,
they don't want to see anything crazy happen.
You don't want to fall down 3 scores at halftime again like they were Friday.
No, you don't. Yeah. So you don't want to lose to the exporters. That's for sure. We got a Saturday game, and this one starts a little bit early, like college football, 11 a.m. We're talking about Iowa Colony. Oh boy, at Lamar Consolidated. And once again, last year the score was 68-13 in favor of the Pioneers. And I'm just going to keep my fingers crossed, my toes crossed, everything crossed in me to hope that it's a game, a good game.
I had my eye, I think that was Thursday night, on Iowa Colony and Santa Fe. Just wanted to see what the Indians looked like. They beat Fort Bend Marshall and had beaten Lamar as well. So you're sitting there going, man, is Santa Fe a frisky pick to maybe make the playoffs? Were we looking at this the wrong way, right? Is it, Randle, Iowa Colony, Texas City, and Marshall? Or are we saying, no, it should be Santa Fe? Well, I was a good measuring stick against Iowa Colony, and boy, if Santa Fe is a threat to make the playoffs, I think Lamar Consolidated is in a lot of trouble against the Pioneers. Now, granted, Lamar and Santa Fe played a game that was a little bit closer, I think, than that final score was. They had them within a score. Santa Fe pulled away late with a couple of late scores to secure that win. But that Santa Fe-Iowa Colony game wasn't close for even 1 second last week. Maybe it was close at the initial kickoff because it was tied until Iowa Colony scored, but it was 28-0, 35-0 at the end of the first quarter. Yep. That team starts fast. They led Randle 21-0 in the first quarter in their meeting before, of course, Randle did Randle things and came back to win that game. But that Iowa Colony team is as legit a threat as any team in Region 3 to come out and go to the state semifinal. And again, I have a lot of respect for what Chris Lane and his staff have done in year 1 at Lamar Consolidated. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's anybody that thinks that they're not much improved from a year ago. But these are two teams with extraordinarily different goals for this season, and I have a hard time seeing that not showing on the field on Saturday.
When a head coach has a front runner like this, Iowa Colony, Randle, whoever, anybody who's on top, they're going to come out as quickly as possible, put as many points as they can in the first 24 minutes of play, and then say, okay, we can relax a little bit in the second half. Let's see some of our backup guys, But that could happen, or it might not. Maybe the coaches want to see something different, some different plays that they never worked on in the second half. But Iowa Colony, for sure, will come out fast against Lamar Con on Saturday morning.
And they're hoping to, right? Their goal, is certainly at this point of the season, has got to be, we need a second matchup against Randle. We feel like we almost got him the first time. If we get him on the field another time, right? What do they say? 4th time's the charm? Well, that's what they have to hope it is the case. And like you said, if they can get off to a fast start, I really see them kind of not pulling off the gas, but I think if Iowa Colony doesn't see Carson White on the field much in the second half, they'll be pretty happy, because they certainly do not want to see a guy like that get hurt, get suspended. A lot of weird things can happen over the course of a game. You don't want to see something fluky happen to a guy you really need later on down the road in a game that's already at hand.
And even before the season started, some people saw Iowa Colony and Randle meeting in the region final. Imagine that?
It's a lot of time between now and then to see how that bracket shakes out.
Yeah.
But I think if that is the potential matchup, right? Because, I mean, who knows what happens with Brenham and you know, some other contenders in the region and where that actually shakes up and where they'd meet. Because remember, Randle played Brenham in the regional semifinal before playing Iowa Colony regional final. I think if whatever matchup that gets to, I think we'll end up seeing Randle Iowa Colony at some point, right? It just, I guess we'll see if it's before they play the Cubs or after they play the Cubs. That's really what we're going to see. But I have a hard time seeing that region come down to anything other than the Lions and the Pioneers.
And this is a Brenham Cub that lost their top running back from last year. He transferred out.
Yeah.
And where's he at? Nobody knows.
Well, he's at a private school in Tomball.
Okay. There you go.
So he's on the private school circuit now. It was a weird. You talk to people in the know of it. It was a weird situation, just based off of the optics of it. Right before the season, he is the leading rusher on a team that was preseason number 3. You know, in the division. You have to wonder what they're going to look like, but again, and you'll remember this from that game, up in Waller last year. Chris Guidry, that wide receiver that they've got, makes some catches, and he's now, I think within the last 2 weeks, has picked up 8 Division I offers. Finally, UTEP finally kind of broke the mold on that. He had no Division I offers before UTEP about 2 weeks ago picked up, and now pretty much on a daily basis, you're seeing Prairie View and other, I think Incarnate Word maybe, and other programs around the area finally kind of picked up the idea that, hey, this guy could play. He's a really good receiver and gave Randle a lot of problems last year. So those 3, of course, Randle, Iowa Colony, and Brenham, I think that's who we're going to be looking at in the region the rest of the way. All right, so one more time here for Joel Luna. I am Sam Cinta at the Week 7 Fort Bend Herald Football Scoreboard Show. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know what you thought. And we're already getting work done to bring you some action here in Week 8. Golly, Week 8. Closing in at the end of the regular season. Some really cool district races shaping up. So excited to bring you more action as we get closer to the start of the postseason. So thank you for tuning in to the Fort Bend Herald Football Scoreboard Show. We will catch you next week.